Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is brought to you by the Friends in Recovery community, a thriving network of individuals who are fighting back against the stigma of addiction. Join our hosts as they speak up about the real issues of addiction, treatment, and recovery. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, here are your friends in recovery.
Hey guys, Jersey Ed here, and welcome to Friends in Recovery podcast. I'm here with Noontime with Sky, and Tiff is back. Tiff P is back again. We can't get rid of her, guys. I think she's. I think we're stuck with her for a while. I just want to say, Tiff, it's been great having you on here. It's been a great addition. Not that Skylar and I aren't great, but but it's definitely great having you as an addition. As far as everything goes, you add a lot to this, and this is the last pat in the back you're going to get, because this is it. You did it too many times already. So, but no, and listeners, guys, if you do agree with us, please comment below. How Tiffany has added stuff to the podcast, so on and so forth. Anyways, I'd like to just wish everybody a happy new year and welcome to 2022. I can't believe the year is gone already. Another year of Friends in Recovery, guys, and another year
of sobriety.
Another year of sobriety. I know.
We haven't seen you guys in a year. We haven't talked in a year. Is that how you say that?
I haven't talked to you since last year, guys. Yeah, exactly. Haven't talked to you since last year. But we have a lot of stuff going on here. Tiffany, you want to talk a little bit about our meetings, that you host, and kind of let everybody know what we do?
Sure. So just want to put out there that we have meetings twice a day. We have 12-step meetings at both noon Eastern Standard Time and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every single day. And we have speaker meetings, step meetings, living clean meetings, topic discussion, literature discussion. Of course, the big book study, which is on Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, hosted by yours truly, alumni and friends, with Noontime with Sky on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. That's an additional meeting. We have meditation group, loved ones group on Mondays. That's awesome. That's for, support of our loved ones, not just focusing on the addict, right? Our loved ones and how they can help themselves. And then we have adventure plannings and more. I also want to point out one thing is that we do have a 30 meeting coin challenge.
Oh yeah. I forgot about this. Yeah.
So, Sky, do you have your coin? Yeah. Whoa. Anyway,
there it is.
It's an awesome, really heavy duty coin that we give to anybody who attends 30 Friends in Recovery meetings. They don't have to be consecutive, and it's an honor system. When you hit the 30 meetings of Friends in Recovery, we send you out a coin, and it's got Bill and Bob on it with masks and zooming through recovery with Friends in Recovery.
Yeah.
It's a great coin. But join us. We have meetings twice a day. You have no excuse not to get on a Friends in Recovery meeting.
Yeah. And if you want to figure out how to get on, just go to and we'll put it in the show notes too. I'll make sure we get the links in the show notes, but go to genesishouse.net under connections, and the links are right there. And all these meetings that Tiffany just talked about will be all there. You can click right on. And remember, all the times that Tiffany just said, it's all Eastern time, but then and just kind of do the math. And also we will have a website soon, guys. So instead of going to genesishouse.net, we always want you to go to genesishouse.net, but you can go to Friends in Recovery, friendsinrecoverycommunities.org. That will be up probably by the end of January. So in 1 month, we will hopefully have that up. And the other thing, before I turn over to you, I do want to thank Genesis House, because Genesis House is, the main. This is the backbone of Friends in Recovery. If it wasn't for Genesis House, we wouldn't be here, and a lot of you alumni people are listening, or a lot of you people who know Genesis House just from this podcast, we wouldn't be around. So thank you, everybody at Genesis House, and we really appreciate your ongoing support for the podcast and all the meetings. So Scott, you want to talk a little bit about
and speaking about
rest
one
of
of
the
their
stuff?
alumni from 2008, and also the alumni coordinator.
There you go.
Check out the Tuesday night alumni meeting. It's really awesome. The clients are on too, so it's a great way we can give back our message of hope. There's also things you can get involved in too with service with us as well. Like we have something called the pen friend. You can write into Genesis House, and the clients get letters, and we know how much that little bit of hope sometimes can really help us like hang on one more day. So we also have a link that we would like you, or even comment below. Actually, give us your clean date. We love to give you a sober shout out. This month I have Jim A, who is an alumni with 10 years. That's 2 handfuls. My man,
Yay,
Jim A.
All right.
Yes. So, and he also brings in H&I to the facility, and so he's very involved with Genesis House.
Good.
So,
I have a sober shout out.
Go ahead. Why we're doing
Well,
it.
I wanted to say, because we're on there, that Joan was commenting on the Friends in Recovery podcast on YouTube, and she has something like 40 years of recovery.
40 years,
so I just wanted to give her a shout out.
Yeah.
And then I also wanted to give a sober shout out to my friend Sonia. Here it is. She has, oh my gosh, I can't remember. I'm looking at the number. It doesn't matter. I know that she's been sober since September. She's been working really hard and on her sobriety, and I want to give her a shout out.
All right, Sonia, keep it going, guys. Keep it going.
Sonia.
Great work.
Keep going, Joan.
Send those sober shout outs to help@friendsinrecoverypodcast.com or comment below, and we'll get it out there too. But sorry, Sky, go ahead. What else you got?
So we also have Ed, on the, if you go to the Genesis House Facebook page and like our page there, you also want to go to the groups, and that's where you'll find the Friends in Recovery community. It's a private group, so it has a lot of members, but it's still private. So what you post, we have private conversations in there. And then there's also the adventures group, and then there's the alumni only group. So that's another way you guys can get involved, and you can reach out to any one of us to get involved in service or find out more about any of the programs.
Send us an email at help@friendsrecoverypodcast.com. Comment below, and we'll get it out to you. Also, Instagram, all that stuff is on. So that is, one other thing, guys. I don't know if you can see it, but we have these beautiful, and you can't see it. All right, we have these wonderful mugs. There you go, Sky and Tiff. They beautiful Friends in Recovery coffee mugs that are not for sale right now, that you cannot get them anyhow, anyway. But eventually, when the webpage goes up, hopefully we'll have these things out there. We've been getting a lot of requests for people, people wanting some Don't Be a Dick shirt. Okay, that'll be up there too.
This is the original Don't Be a Dick sweatshirt. So.
That's it. You heard the story about it last week. So but that's all we got on that, guys. Today starts an amazing year, guys. Okay. All 3 of us put our heads together, and we kind of got this wonderful, great idea that we're going to do kind of a step a month. Okay. We're going to take the first week of the month and we're going to get into the step. And then the second and third week of the month, we're going to have related topics, maybe speakers on the step of the month. We're not going to dissect the step every week, but we're going to have a step of the month. Step 1, January, step 2, so on and so forth. But then the last week of the month, we're going to have a tradition kind of a show where we're going to just go over tradition in detail of that month also. So you're going to learn a lot. You're going to hear a lot in the next year about the steps. And our interpretation of them through AA and NA into our program, that the way we work them. And we're going to kind of try to give you the best that we could. And this is all because we're sober, all because that we've been working these steps, and all because of the grace of God, we're here and we're able to do this, and hopefully pass this along to you. If you have any comments or anything that you want to talk about, please list them below. We do get back to you. Check out the shows before we do get back to you. So today, guys, it is 2022. I have to get used to saying that now, guys. It's 2022. It's January 2022. I'm still writing 21. You still write the 21. You know how crazy it gets. But it's January 2022, and we're going to start with step 1, guys. Step 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, and our lives have become unmanageable. I mean, let's think about that for a second, right? I mean,
Mhm.
how fitting for a first step, or just to really realize, like, when you walk into and when you start doing the work, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives have become manageable. Let's even take out, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol. Let's just take, our lives have become unmanageable. I mean, if you can't admit you're powerless over alcohol, you sure as shit can admit that your life is fucking unmanageable, right? And then let's put the first part back in. It's due because of the alcohol and the drugs, right?
Yeah.
My life is not unmanageable today. I don't drink. I don't use. Is it unmanageable? Sometimes, yeah, but I get it right back in order. And I work the steps. I call my sponsor. I do what I have to do. But this step is an amazing, amazing step. And it's the only step that you have to get right. You don't have to get it right, but you just go back to it again. But if you want to stay sober, this is the step that you have to get right almost every day, one day at a time, 1 minute at a time, 1 second at a time. This is a step that we have to kind of get right. And this is the most important step, because if you don't clear the cobwebs out of your brain, if you don't get the shit out of your brain, if you're not fucked up, you can get this. And this is very, very easy, guys. It's what do they say, guys? It's a simple program for complicated people. Well, that's for sure shit me.
Yeah.
I can tell you that. So, but so we all have our own interpretation, of course, and even you guys out there listening, comment below what your interpretation of the first step you think is. We've got. I'm gonna comment from. We're gonna use a couple books here. The 12 and 12. I have a bunch of stuff. Tiff is gonna do some work from the big book. And daily reflections, and
Daily
Skylar,
reflections.
and Skylar's gonna look at
I'm out of the
first
how
step
and
from
why. The how and
okay.
why book is kind of your 12 and 12 in AA.
Okay, so the
And
how
then I
and
have the
why.
basic text and then the workbook.
So we're always going to give you like what books we're reading from, because we want you guys to follow through with us and see where we're at. Because you know what, there's nothing worse than listening to somebody and not being able to read the book, or maybe underlining it or whatever. Because guys, this is life and death now. Listen to this podcast. I know it's fun and we goof around, but recovery is life and death. And step one is the beginning of life. Is the beginning of, we're walking away from death. We're putting that space in between death further and further as much as we can. By that, we admit we're powerless over alcohol or drugs, and our lives become unmanageable. So, girls, it's up to you. God, girls, oh my God, I'm freaking surrounded. This is crazy.
Wow, you're surrounded by women. Woo!
I need more. I need some guys in here. Come on.
Next week.
Yes. All right. Yes, so, next week. Absolutely.
I like that we started the show with all of our resources, because it directly ties to step one. What do we do once we've admitted that we were powerless over alcohol and our lives have become unmanageable? What the fuck do I do now? Right. And especially because I'm usually in a state of, like we said, none of us come in here on a winning streak. And I am usually in a state of complete defeat. I know I was. And I wasn't an or person. I was alcohol and drugs and more. I was addicted to people. It doesn't matter. I was addicted to more. But I like the very beginning of the 12 and 12 on page 21, where it says, who cares to admit complete defeat? Practically no one, right? I know I didn't want to. I didn't want to admit defeat because I thought that I had a moral problem. I really thought that, I should be able to do this. I was shooting on myself. You hear that phrase. And I knew that my life was unmanageable because it was a complete shit show, like you were talking about, but I didn't know what the hell to do about it. And I was at complete defeat. I was suicidal. I was going to die. And thank God that I had a moment of clarity and I asked for help. But like I said, I'm glad that we put our resources out there because there are so many, right? And then if you go to Genesis House, there's a whole library of resources that you can find and use and ask for help. Even, phone numbers to call, people to talk to. The Friends in Recovery website is going to be great because we're going to have who you can call for help immediately. I mean, a person who's going to answer the phone right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Now.
Yeah.
Right. But anyway, I was at a turning point. I needed to surrender.
And
I had to surrender. And that's what step one is to me.
Exactly. But you read who cares to admit complete defeat? Practically no one, right?
Right.
My thought on that, and I have that underlined and highlighted, and again, that's perfect just to start step one. I mean, like,
right.
Who wants to? Now, when I came in, I didn't think, I knew my life was unmanageable, but I didn't want to tell you that because I had my ego in the way. I had, my pride in the way. I thought that that this would be the end of my life, is admitting that I had a problem, admitting that I had a drinking problem. I thought it was. I really thought that this was the end of all of everything. And I realized it was the beginning of life, not the end of life. Like I said at the beginning, we want to push death far away as possible and start that new life. But I get calls all the time from people saying, yeah, I want to go into treatment. My life is over. I'm like, I sit there. I'm like, yeah, I was there all those years ago. And I get that, man. And this step will show you that it's not true. This step will show you that you can start unwinding all that stuff and that chaos and that craziness that you started or you put aside to figure out where your life can all go away. It all can go away. That craziness, the unmanageability will just clear up. Now, will you be, I mean, will shit happen? Of course shit will happen and things will become unmanageable, but that's when we turn our will and we're not in that step yet. So
for me, I was so scared. The words I have highlighted are just a little further down on the page. I was afraid of absolute humiliation.
Yes, I got that.
I didn't want to be humiliated. Like you said, you have your ego and your pride, but I didn't want to admit that defeat. But I felt humiliated. But what I found was, as soon as I asked for help, it was like, and I'm literally like 3 words: I need help. That's all I asked. That's all I said. I need help. I had such a weight lifted off of my shoulders, just saying those words out loud to another human being, it helped me move on to understand what was going to happen for the rest of my life. Right. I had a little bit of moment of clarity. I said, I need help, and some weight was lifted off of my shoulders. So that absolute humiliation, was still there. I still was feeling it, but I felt a little better. And that little better was just that glimpse of hope. Right. But, it says our admissions of personal powerlessness finally turn out to be a firm bedrock upon which happy and purposeful lives may be built. So that admission of my powerlessness is what builds our foundation of sobriety. It builds that bedrock so that we can move on, getting help. First of all, separating ourselves from alcohol and drugs, right? Physically getting separated from alcohol and drugs.
Yes.
Yeah. Getting your head clear, having someone hold your hand through the process, and then you have this foundation of, okay, now I can rebuild my life. It really is not that long of a process. It's just getting over that first, pile of shit that you're walking over or through.
Exactly.
And saying, you know what, I have a fucking problem. And I never wanted to say that out loud, but it builds that bedrock. Right. And it gives you some relief.
Well, the foundation is key. And, I think that it's a story in a big book. I'm not a big book guy, but isn't there a story in a big book where you don't build your house on sand? And I think there's a story about that somewhere in a big book.
There is.
Right. Yeah. So we build, I know some of the big book, but we build our recovery on step one, and then we grow to step 2 and so on and so forth. Sky, give us your take about this first part of step 1, and you can do it from the NA point of view also.
NA is huge on like identifying the spiritual principles in each step, and AA does it too. They just don't put it so forth like outright. It's just it's in between the lines, which I struggle with. So that's why I choose this literature. But acceptance, humility, willingness, honesty, open-mindedness, they're all like super important here. And when I think of step 1, I think of it it's addressing the obsession, the compulsion, the denial, and the spiritual void. You know what I mean? Like, because my denial protected me,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, think about it. And then, like,
Oh yeah.
when I think about the surrender, I think about how I have to turn to this step again and again, even clean, because of that
Yes.
surrender. Because trying to feel empty, it says trying to feel emptiness with something outside of ourselves, using something to change the way we feel. That's when we go back to step one principles, because we're seeking outside feelings to get out of ourselves, you know?
And that could be food, that could be sugar,
Exactly.
it could be sex, it could
Anything.
be
Step one is
gambling,
huge throughout
Yep.
our
it could be
entire recovery.
anything. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's
because-
admitting,
Relationships.
yeah, that it's that first, that I'm physically an addict, right? I'm physically different than every other human being, right? Who's not an addict, right? I'm not a moderate drinker. I'm not a hard drinker. I'm not a normal drinker. I'm an addict. I'm an alcoholic, you know, and admitting that I am physically really an alcoholic and an addict. And that means I can't stay stopped.
The driving force is beyond our control.
And
Legit.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not just physically, it's that mental obsession of wanting the drink, wanting the drug, and it's taking over everything.
Well, the mental obsession comes first. Like,
Absolutely.
the mental obsession comes first, and then we act on that. We can either not act on, like my sponsor always says, Eddie, you can't control the first thought that comes in your head, but you control the thoughts afterwards. But if we obsess mentally on a drink, a drug, a woman, a relationship, a man, gambling, whatever it is, we don't have a choice about the second thought or the third thought or the thoughts afterwards, because what, you know, like we're concentrating on just doing that. And if we can just snap out of it and break out of it, and that's what these steps teach us to do. And that's what, when we talk to other fellow alcoholics and addicts, and when you're listening to this podcast, it breaks you from that thinking, that stinking thinking. You guys probably heard the stinking thinking in the rooms. You know, if you're new to this or whatever, you'll hear a lot of stinking thinking. And that's what it is that thinking that gets you in trouble, that thinking that you think that you got it right. Yeah, I can have one drink. No, you can't. No, you can't.
That's a reservation,
You're powerless over it. Yeah, you're powerless
We'll get into
over
that later.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that's kind of how that goes, you know, as far as that goes. The other thing I was reading here is until we first admit complete defeat is a main taproot from which our whole society has sprung and flowered. Until we first admit complete defeat, right? And that the main taproot, that means that's what we're kind of living off of. That's kind of where our source is coming from. And then we can kind of change our whole world, right? We can change our whole world, and we can turn into this new person eventually. You know what I mean? And I love that. I love that. I have that underlined, and I love that. So what's your guys' thought on that piece of things? And Sky, what's the NA version of that too, if you don't mind?
Well, the admission is what I think you're talking about, right? Like the admission where we
of complete defeat. Yeah.
Yeah. So like the admission, I didn't always realize it had to like come completely from me, and like no one else could claim me as it, but it felt weird because the family around me was trying to claim me as an addict. Like, Skylar, you're an addict. I'm like, no, because I was the last to know. I don't know about you guys, but I was the last to know I was an addict. You know what I mean? So when they're telling me, you know, they have to convince me and shatter this denial. You know what I mean? And you know, the admission was so important for me because I had to really understand it, feel it, and know that that's what I was like doing. Like, you know, like, cause I had to admit the powerlessness and the unmanageability. There was two things I had to admit. It was really twofold. If you think about like right off the bat, like I'm powerless over this, and the unmanageability is your outside. That's the outside powerlessness that's going on around you. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then you got the emotional craziness going inside. So it's a whole bunch of stuff. But that admission is huge. And I think that a lot of us want to say like, oh, you're an alcoholic, but it's such like an individualized thing, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And then like, well, the first thing that I had to understand is like, it says it on page 23 of the big book. It says the main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in his body. I had to admit that first, that it was, or understand that first. It really was in my mind. I really didn't understand that to begin with. I thought it was, my body or whatever. I don't even know what
Like
the
you really
fuck
had to
thought
have
was.
it.
I really
Well,
don't.
here, let me explain that to you, okay? Because Skylar and I work in the field. So, and this kills me when I get a phone call like this. Hey, I just need a 7-day detox and I'm going to be fine. It kills me. It kills
Go
me.
in your bathroom, buddy.
That's a squirt of piss. Come on. What the hell is that? 7
So
days.
everybody, if you're laughing out there, you know exactly what we're talking about. If you're not laughing out there, we're going to explain it a little bit. But what it is that it's not an obsession of the body. It's not it's not a disease of your body. Of course, alcohol and a lot of drugs are definitely addictive to your body, and you need to get off them in a professional and a medical way. 100% hands down. I do not recommend you at all stopping and without professional help. That's number one. Number two, when your body is completely off of it, you're not cured. When your body is done, when your body is free of everything, you're not cured, because it's a disease of the mind on top of that. And your mind doesn't think, our mind doesn't think, my mind as an alcoholic addict doesn't think the way normal people's minds think. We obsess over things constantly. It's not the body that needs it, it's the mind that needs it. And that's why I said, when my sponsor said, you can't control the first thought, but the thoughts afterwards you can control. And you can kind of get those out, but without the help, or without a help of a sponsor or help the program, you're just going to obsess and you're going to go back out again. And that's why just the detox does not work. It just does not work, because we got to work on the mind. You got to work on the mind.
Well, it's about getting honest.
Yes.
That's what I learned is that after I had physically detoxed, I really had to get honest, right? And let's just be real here. I didn't start out with a fucking, bag of heroin and a needle in my arm. You know what I mean? We don't start out like that. We start out like everybody else. It's a progressive disease. I was, in the back 40 with everybody in the woods drinking at the bonfire, just like everybody else. But it progressed and it progressed and it progressed, right? And then once I got out of control and, my life was unmanageable, which I knew it was unmanageable, right? Then I admitted, I'm powerless over this. I fucking can't do it anymore, right? I was just desperate. Asked for help, physically got separated from alcohol and drugs. Then I had to get honest. And that was where, the real part of my program started. Was step one, is actually being honest with myself. Myself first.
And that sounds easy, but it's really a lot harder than it sounds.
It's hard.
Oh, I just had to get honest. Like, that's a hard thing.
It's hard
because all I did was lie.
Yeah.
Because
everybody
that's
thinks
all I did was lie.
Nothing else.
Everything I did.
It says here in the book, it says, we learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost self that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we are like other people, or presently maybe, has to be smashed. That was it, right? It had to be smashed. And I needed help doing that.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too, guys, is that everybody says, oh, the putting the drugs or the alcohol down is the hardest part. No, that's not the hardest part. Because there's medication to help you through all that. There's all that.
Right.
It is trying to keep it down. That's number one. Number two is working on the honesty. I mean, that's the first thing that I talk to my sponsees about. My sponsor always talked about, are you being honest? That is the backbone of this program, is honesty. Because you know what? You can tell a little white lie about, I'm all right, whatever. And okay, I'm just going to go hang out at the bar. Yeah, I'm just going to go out with my old cool friends. And next thing you know, man, you're in it, knee deep, and you can't get out of it again.
Right.
And especially for newcomers. And even me, when Skylar and you, Tiff, we have some time under our belts, I am not going to go back into that playground. I'm not going back to the old friends. I'm not going back to the old haunts. I'm not going back to those old ways, and because that's what this program taught me. This is that I'm powerless over. I can't sit at the bar and have a fucking club soda. I can't. There's no need to it. There's no need for me. There's zero need. If I'm going to go sit at a bar and I'm not going to have a club soda, and I'm not going to be sitting alone, and I'm going to have a pile of cocaine, and I'm going to get really fucked up, and I'm going to fuck everything else up. So
Yeah.
there's no way I'm going back to
Right,
that.
right.
Okay.
Mhm.
And that's the unmanageable part, the powerlessness,
Yeah.
and the unmanageable piece of everything.
Honesty has to, well, it says honesty has to replace denial before we can face the truth of our addiction. And that's
Yeah.
in the how and why. But it says many of us recall the moment of clarity when we came face to face with our disease. What did your guys' surrender look like?
Oof.
Explain to me what that was for you. Like, because surrender, like, I knew in my heart of heart I was done. Like, I knew I was right. I knew it. But that surrender piece to actually do it was really hard. You know what I mean?
That's
like,
a good question. Yeah.
right.
That's a good question.
Because when I think about surrender, like, because I had to surrender to reservations, I did surrender to being a lot like honest. I just surrendered to a lot of things. Like, there's a lot of things we surrender to. I think mine kind of looked like more like I couldn't live without. I couldn't feel happiness. I couldn't feel sadness. I felt like an empty shell. And I was willing to do whatever to just try something different before I killed myself. Like that's really what my surrender looked like,
Well,
but everyone I think might be different.
Yeah. And yeah, it definitely is. But, and surrender to win. I didn't know that's what we had to do. It's like giving, do we give up? Like surrender, give up, the white flag goes up, the troops withdraw, and, you sign the peace treaty, and, you go with your tail behind, like, that's not what it is. Surrender to win is to
Not have
move
to
on
fight
in your
anymore.
life. Yeah. I remember, it's funny. I was just going to ask this question, Sky. You and I.
Is that why you were laughing?
Yeah. I'm like, oh my God. I was literally just going to ask it because Tim prompted something that I was going to ask this question, but mine was, and this brought me vividly back to the day it stopped. I was at my girlfriend's house with my girlfriend. I went on a week-long bender. My wife did not know where I was. She was at home taking care of my ex-wife, anyways, was taking care of the 3 kids. And I just had some kind of a spiritual awakening or a moment of clarity or whatever you want to call it. I was in bed with this girl laying there in the morning, and I'm like, this is not right. And we just did a whole bunch of cocaine, drank so much. I'm like, this is not right. And something just came over me. Okay, this was before cell phones and everything. I got up out of the bed. I walked over to the phone and I called my wife to come pick me up.
Oh my
You want to
God.
talk about
Wow.
fucking scary shit, man.
I got goosebumps.
I surrendered that moment because I didn't know what was gonna happen. I didn't know I was gonna win. I thought I was dead. So the story gets better. She comes down with my fucking mother in the car.
Oh
with my
God.
mother in the car, okay? I can laugh about it now, thank God, because I'm not that person.
Humility's part of this step.
But yeah, you want to talk about unmanageable? Your wife and your mother picks you up at your girlfriend's house when you're all fucked up.
Oh my God.
Tell me that's unmanageable, guys. All right, let's be serious. So, anyways, so that's kind of that was my surrender. That was my last moment saying, yeah, there's something wrong here. This is not right. So,
Right.
How about you, Tiff?
So I had spent an entire year researching the easiest way to die because I just was over, because everything, I'll tell you, alcohol and drugs influenced every single facet of my life. Everything, every facet. Whether I was taking care of the kids, whether I was doing anything, it was, and I couldn't stop it. I couldn't stop. And I was at just such humiliation that I couldn't control it, that I just wanted to die. It was no longer that I didn't want to live. It was that I wanted to die. So I was researching the easiest way to die. And when I finally had made a plan, I went, and I've said this before, I called and I called Chris, and I was going to say goodbye. And when he came in, I just had that moment of clarity, and I asked for help, but it was when I had to surrender, when every facet of my life was being influenced by drugs or alcohol, even just to feel normal. Like it got so bad that I had to take so many opiates or so a day, or just to get out of bed. You know what I mean? If I was even going to get out of bed that day.
Yeah.
So I was I was crawling at that moment. Like I had nothing left. And I knew I was losing everything. I knew that Chris was going to leave me.
Yes.
I knew I
everything
had
was
lost my
unmanageable.
business. Yeah, I had it. No longer was working. I was I felt worthless.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't adding anything to anybody's life, anything in society.
Nope.
All of those things.
So you were selfish. You're being selfish.
I thought I was a caring, giving person. And I couldn't do that anymore. And so when that love language was lost, right, where I didn't have the ability to show love anymore, then I was, I was at complete surrender. I was just like, forget it. I don't care. I would have done anything to come back to sanity. Anything.
To rid that fear and doubt.
Even die.
Sober. Yeah.
Even die.
Guys, on page 22, it says our sponsors declared that we were the victims of mental obsession, so stubbornly powerful that no amount of human willpower could break it. Okay.
Are you in the 12 and 12 or are you
I'm sorry, page 22, 12 and 12. Yeah, about a quarter way down. Our sponsors declared that we were the victims of a mental obsession so stubbornly powerful that no amount of human willpower can break it. I agree with that. That I have to highlight and underline that no amount of human willpower can break it. Okay. And the other thing, it says our sponsors declared. That is the key part of this whole sentence. Okay. So willpower at the end, sponsor at the beginning. So the sponsor declares that we can't break it with willpower ourselves. Now, how important, this is one of the questions I wrote down, how important is a sponsor to step one, getting us through? Because step one seems to be easy. We're admitted we're powerless over alcohol, because a lot of sponsees I work with, that's easy. You just say, okay, I'm powerless over alcohol. My life has become unmanageable. To me, it's not that easy. Now, what's your thoughts on it, and how important is a sponsor to help us through navigate this bullshit and the willpower crap that sentence just kind of, tells us there?
Well, I can't spot self-deception. That's why I need a sponsor. Right?
That's true. That's true.
So for me, in step one, my brain was still broken, right? And so I'm trying to take a broken brain and fix a broken brain, right? So it just didn't make any sense, right? So actually, just even though step one, even in the pages of the book is so short. It's so short. It seems so tiny, right?
Yes.
Compared to some of the rest of the steps. But that sponsor was so important because they made me feel not just about being alone, because at that point I was still humiliated and embarrassed, but them sharing their experience. That, like you said last week, Sky, like they were saying out loud in meetings, if you could roll back your brain, what was actually inside, like knowing, oh my gosh, like I'm not the worst of the worst. Someone out there is worse than me, right? Everybody else is lying. Everybody else is cheating. Everybody else is stealing. Everybody else is doing drugs. Everybody else is, just to know that other people have done the same things that I have, and I'm not alone was the biggest thing. Not just, like having a partner to do it, but having someone to walk me through that, to say, oh no, listen to this, listen to that, or I did this, I did that, was really important. And then having questions. And having them help me understand that it was that mental obsession, right? That I physically, I did admit that I was an alcoholic, and an addict, but I just having someone work that process with me, like even that there's a difference between addict and alcoholic. There's a difference between drug of choice, my disease is progressive. I started out with alcohol. It just progressed, like I said, but to have someone explain that to me and work with me on my life, and then push me forward to the next step. Was
And
When I
great.
did my steps in AA the first time, and I had a sponsor that sat and read it with me, and like she would tell me where to write stuff. And at the time, I didn't always understand what it meant. But
Right.
now I'm so glad I did it, because now my AA book is so tagged up, and I can, you know, look back and see that stuff, and it's great, you know. And that's silly stuff. Like I didn't know what a reservation was. I thought that you called to the restaurant and you called ahead and told my people you were coming. You know what I mean? So I could ask those dumb questions. I didn't know what a resentment is, to refuel. Oh, what?
Yeah. Right.
You know, like I
Right.
had no idea any of this stuff. So a
Yeah.
sponsor's great for that. Hey, spons, I heard this thing in a meeting today. What does this mean? You know,
Right.
that's how you could start off.
Yeah.
And to
And
have
Tiff-
somebody call when you're in trouble,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
That you trust.
Yeah.
Because I thought building a support group or having support was like, oh, from your family, but your family doesn't always understand because they
Yes.
don't have that same sickness of the mind.
Mhm. They don't. You're right.
They-
And
yeah.
I like what you were saying before, Tiff, and about like you know, when we think everybody's drinking, you know, when we were in it, when we were drinking, everybody drinks. You know, when I'm telling you, I thought everybody in this world drank just like I did, you know. And
Yeah.
when you're in that, you're drinking. Well, here's something I want you
Way of
guys to
life.
do. Yeah, here's something I want you to do. Okay, I want you to look around your room, and you guys can do this. Okay, around. Okay, you ready? I just
Yeah.
want you to look for everything blue, and you're going to give you 10 seconds. Blue, 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 blue. Look at it. There's a chair, whatever. Blue. You guys looking at blue? Looking at blue? Looking at blue? Okay, close your eyes. Everybody, close your eyes. What did you see red in the room? Right? Think about that.
Nothing.
Because we were looking at blue, we were concentrating on blue, we were thinking about blue. Same
Yeah.
thing with drugs and alcohol, because and you said it before, it's I thought everybody did it the same way. But when we find out there's red and green and blue and pink and yellow in
Yeah.
the rooms, that's where recovery comes in, because our mind is open to so much more things, so many more things. And that's what a sponsor does. A sponsor lets us see more than just red. He or she lets us see more. And open our eyes to, you know what? Not everybody drinks and drugs in this world. You can go have fun playing baseball or football, or sitting on your couch with your wife, or taking a walk, or laying in bed for an hour extra long, you know, because you're not fucked up. You're not laying in bed an hour extra longer because you want to relax,
Right.
you know? So that's an
know-
exercise I like doing with people, because they're like, oh yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
You know, I thought, you guys, I thought I was always going through withdrawal. I thought everybody felt that way. Like, I thought that was a hangover. So like when I went to the addiction doctor, he's like, oh, did you go through any withdrawal? This was like way back when I first started. And I was like, no, you know, that's a hangover. And I was like, no, that's not, that's withdrawal. Like I thought everybody felt like that, you know? And it's not the truth.
Mhm.
But more importantly, back to the sponsorship, it says alcoholics almost never recovered on their own resources. Okay. It says that in the book. That's how the book was written. That's what the doctor's opinion says. It's, you know, and we haven't even gotten into the doctor's opinion. We will later, but nobody recovers on their own. And that's when Bill W. and Bob, Dr. Bob, and the first 100 people were writing the book, they didn't do it alone. It was the worst of real alcoholics and drug addicts. And I know that's what I was, of the most desperate real alcoholic kind, right?
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then
yeah.
none of them did it on their own. And it was because they shared their experience with each other that, you know, oh my gosh, somebody else felt that way. Somebody else did
Mhm.
that stuff, you know? So
Yeah, I
that's,
wrote that too. Through our collective experience, we found that we could accomplish together what we could not do alone.
yeah,
You
Couldn't
know,
do
I
it
can't,
alone.
we can.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's why what's the old saying? It takes two people to make a meeting, you know, because we're not thinking the same. You know, I could be trying to, you know, think of something, and Tiff, you know, if you and I are sitting there talking, you know, we can think differently. You know what I mean? This disease is about just thinking differently, like taking our minds and completely thinking differently. And here's it says, perhaps you're not an alcoholic after all. Why? This is page 23 in the 12 and 12. Why don't you try some controlled drinking?
Yes, I love that part. Just go
Meanwhile-
try some controlled drinking. No big deal.
Try it.
I'm
Meanwhile,
a social heroin user.
yeah. so yeah. So now you're thinking that, oh, maybe I can just have here's what I love this one too. Well, I'm not going to drink any hard stuff anymore. I'm just going to drink some beer or some wine, you know?
Wine.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
but that's, the controlled drinking. There's no controlled drinking for me, guys. There was never any control from the
No.
day I picked up the alcohol. There was never control. At age 13, I did not have one beer. I did not have one beer at age 13. I can promise you that, and I didn't have one line at age 14 when I was doing cocaine,
Right.
We bought
Well, and your mind was already thinking about the next one,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Like I can
100%.
control the first one because I
Yep.
ordered it, right?
Yep.
But as soon as I have it, I
can't
think,
stop
I
there.
can just have one more,
Yeah.
and I'm already thinking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and how the story goes.
Yeah. Or you start thinking, the bar's gonna close at 2:00. Where the fuck am I gonna go? Maybe I should get the 6-pack, put in the car, get a bottle, put in the car, right? I mean, it's that
Mhm.
obsession.
I'm constantly managing my disease.
Yeah.
I used to love when I would say, I'm going to save these for tomorrow. And then I find
Yeah.
I'm not high enough. So I got to take
Yeah.
these. And then tomorrow come like I'm sick.
Yeah. I buy all these oxys at once, right? And I'm
what I'm
gonna ration them out, and then
And then that
Yeah,
amount
right.
went gone.
bye.
And I'm like, shit, I'm out of money now. It's so true. It's so true. But the thing is, like you said, I heard the word disease. And like that's one thing I learned is that we are not responsible for our disease, but we're responsible for our recovery. So that's why we get into the steps. That's why we work with a
Yeah.
sponsor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as we go, anybody have anything they want to add to that piece of anything? Because I want to get down into a kind of a solution for step one, if you
Yeah.
guys don't mind, because we did talk a lot, and I hope you guys understand. We do bring up our past because it is our past. We never want to go back there, guys, and we have to laugh about it today. But there's a solution. There's a solution to all this, and to every step. There's the closer we get to step 12, the more the more educated we become,
Mhm.
the further and further we get from the drink,
Mhm.
and the drug, and that obsession, and working with our sponsor and everything. And it says on page 24, the very last sentence, we stand ready to do anything which will lift the merciless obsession from us. We stand ready to do anything, guys.
Mm.
What's your thoughts on that? And kind of, what do you guys think about that?
Well, once I said it, okay, so I was ready to do anything because I just wanted to feel. I couldn't feel anything, right? So I was willing, even though I was scared, I was willing, and that's a big word, willing.
Mhm.
I was willing to go to treatment. I still was balking going to inpatient.
Mhm.
Okay. Even though I was like, oh man, I was so far gone. Anyway, but I was willing to try. And then I was willing to listen to what the experts told me. Okay. The experts told me I needed inpatient and I needed 30 days minimum. So I did that. And I said AA and NA, I'm never going to have a 12-step program in my life. Right. But after I finished my 30 days, they said I was at a high risk for relapse. Okay. Because I've been a one and done so far. I'm a one-time winner so far.
Good.
But every day is a new day. Okay.
Mhm.
So I went to outpatient and I got to a point where I kept being willing and more willing to do more, right? Willing to do more. And that's when I joined the 12-step program. Was about between 4 to 6 months in. I started
Mhm.
getting that scary feeling, that fear of like, I'm missing something. I'm missing something.
Yeah.
So I
something's-
still yet willing to do more. And then I walked into the 12 steps. I walked into an AA meeting, but I was ready and willing. I had to get rid of this obsession. I had to. I didn't hear any other voice in my mind.
obsession. Yeah.
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 So Tiff, your kind of solution, I'm not saying to end it all be all, is willingness. I love
Yeah.
it. Willingness to, we stand ready to do anything. This is on page 24, the last sentence. We stand ready to do anything which will lift the merciless obsession from us.
Yep.
And willingness to do whatever it takes, you know.
I was
And
just willing to try.
yeah, because the other way didn't work.
Yep. And
The
I
other
was
way didn't
full
work.
of fear. I was full
Yeah.
of fear.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that willingness kept pushing me forward. And I
Yep.
had to be open and willing to do that.
Yeah. What about you, Sky? What's your take on the merciless obsession?
Well, you know, what first came to mind is my clean date's in 2008, but my first treatment center was 2005. And what really messed me up that time of not staying clean was I wasn't fully willing. I had a lot of conditions, right? Well, I'll get clean, but I'm still going to smoke weed. Well,
Yeah.
I can get clean, but I'm not gonna use Xanax anymore. I'm gonna use Percocet. Like I had all
Yeah.
these conditions, and it really jacked me up. And then like that's when I learned later on like about reservations, like and what things I wasn't willing to surrender to. And
Yeah.
that was like so tricky because I'm like, but I'm surrendering to stop using like the drug that brought me to my knees. I
Right.
stopped using the Percocet. The opiates are gone, you know.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that it's all like just like alcohol is a drug. They say alcohol is because
Yeah.
one leads me to another. You know what I mean? When I drink, I can drink alcoholically, even though it's not my drug of choice, or it's going to lead me to my drug of choice. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, so, but I just think that the surrendering to the whole entire program and being open-minded to it, like willingness to open-minded are so key because I think if we're not at all like trying, willing, and like even open, because closed-mindedness gets us nowheres in the world, even if we're not in recovery. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like when we're closed-minded to an idea, like our perspective is fixated to one
Right.
way, you know?
Very good point.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So we have to be like, you know, but when I just know that I didn't surrender everything, I was reserving a place for a relapse. And
Yeah.
that's what I had to realize and surrender to let go, like to win. And I let go. I didn't know what that meant at first. Like, I didn't know, what do you mean let go? Like, I just like, you know, throw it up in the air. Like I'm so literal. Like to me, I'm like, what does that mean? You know?
Yeah.
And then she's, you know, she would have me read, the director, like, you know, and like how I'm trying to fix and control it, you know, so
Yeah.
she would have me read that a lot, you know, just to go back to the obsession and the different stuff, you know, but I think that the surrender was so big and to be open-minded and willing to the process.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
and that's what it comes down to at the beginning, what Skylar was talking about, surrender to win. And that's what step one really is about. You know, we have to surrender. We have to surrender everything that we know in our past life, including our drugs, alcohol, whatever we did in our past life, if we want to win. You know, just give it, just like Skylar said, just what do you do? Throw it up in the air. How do you do it? Like you just let
Yeah.
it go. You like, no, it's a process. It's
Yes.
it's a long process. That's why there's 12 steps, and that's why you have a sponsor, and that's why you go to meetings, and that's why you take things one day at a time, 1 minute at a time. I remember laying in my grandmother's basement when I first got into recovery, like, when is this going to end? Well, it's not going to
Yeah.
end. It's going to get better, guys. And I'm thinking like, all right, well, I'm giving all this shit up and I'm in a fucking basement. I had a house, I had a car, I had a wife, I had a kid, I had a girlfriend. It didn't fucking help. but it was a little thing there, and I got fucked up. But I also had an alcohol and a drug addiction and all that stuff. So being in that basement, being on that couch for 3 years was the best thing that I could have ever done. And I wasn't couch surfing. I was going to meetings. I was working 2 jobs. I was working hard to get my kids back and all that stuff. And life was, I thought it was shitty at the time, but life was really good.
Yeah.
It really was. I was sober. I was going to 2-3 meetings a day and, just getting my sobriety where it needed to be. And I didn't know it at the time, but I did surrender to win at the time. And now I look at it, and sometimes I don't want to surrender, guys. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, fuck that. I'm going to do it my way. But you know what? My way doesn't work. And once I surrender and I give it up and it goes away, that's when the shit works. That's when it works.
You know, and that was hard for me. I grew up really independent and alone, you know, like I was a fighter and a survivor. And so when you grow up, like just constantly like in that self-made prison, right, that we talk about, where I was constantly battling and I was in control, It was hard to give up that control and listen to others, but I had to be willing. And those tiny little wins kept giving me a
Yes.
little more hope, a
Yeah.
little more hope. And
Yeah.
and then I made it. I made it.
Yeah, sometimes surrender can be just following a suggestion our sponsor gives us.
Right.
Like that can be
Yes.
like the simple surrender is like me reading that chapter in the book, like the suggestion,
Yes.
the silent command. You know what I mean? And I know what you're talking about. And I feel like at that time frame in my recovery, it was like a trial and error phase
Yeah.
because I had to see
Yeah.
which tools I really liked, which drill bits fit my, drill
Yeah.
to get
Yeah.
to work with my recovery. Because I think everyone's different and we have like a format to follow and experiences, but we find out what works for us, It's
Exactly.
like like
Yeah.
a trial, and that can be kind of like trying
Yeah.
those
Well,
times.
the other thing too is that in early recovery, we're so vulnerable because we don't
Yes.
have anything to hide behind. We don't have a drug, a woman,
Exactly.
a
Yeah.
man, a
You feel naked.
relationship. Yeah, you're
Spiritually naked.
That's what happens. We do get spiritually naked, and then we build up from there. So, guys,
Mhm.
we're gonna wrap this up here for in a minute. Step one, we admit we're powerless over alcohol, that our lives have become unmanageable. Skylar, give us a quick synopsis on that, and or just a quick thought on
Freedom.
step one.
Freedom.
Freedom. Tiff.
Let freedom ring.
Yeah. Happiness comes quietly.
Yes, it does.
Comes
And-
quietly.
And I like to surrender to win, guys.
I
think
do.
It's so key. I think it's just and a lot of people are probably scratching their head saying, what are these guys talking about? Surrender to win. Please,
You'll get
guys,
it.
You'll get it. Listen, because
Yeah,
we're gonna talk
yeah.
more about it on the next couple of shows. So all the shows in January is going to be all on step one. We're not going to go through the step like we just did today, but we're going to have a guest next
Or a
week,
theme.
guest speaker on from a clinical standpoint of view on step one. So we know how we can approach things differently, because this is not a disease you approach one way.
Right.
Of course, AA, NA, of course, that's the main way. But when when I run, I just don't go out running. I train differently, different days. I take different supplements. I do this, I do that to build my running program. And that's how this works too. We need our sponsors. We need some professional help sometimes. We need some medication sometimes. So that's where all this comes in. So that's the kind of perspective that we're going to take throughout the month. We're gonna have different guests. We're gonna have different topics about step one for this month. And I think you guys are gonna enjoy the new format that we're going here. And I'm gonna enjoy it. I know that. So
I'm excited.
To surrender to
Don't be a
win.
dick, anyone.
Be a dick. That's it. Don't forget, like us, subscribe, comment below on anything you heard here, anything you agree or disagree with. We don't care. We're open. We're open for to learn and
Discussion.
to
Sober
understand.
shout outs too.
Absolutely.
Put your
Yeah.
sober
Sober
dates in there.
shout-outs. Yeah, please, sober shout outs. And great show, ladies.
If you need help, reach out. If
We're
you
here.
need help.
Yep,
Here.
absolutely. You can go to Genesis House website, drop a comment below, or help at friendsandrecoverypodcast.com, and we'll make sure we get we get back to you immediately. So guys, another great show. Great two co-hosts. I love this. This is great. I feel the energy going on. I know everybody out there does. And I just want to stay sober, everybody.
This concludes this episode of Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast. Follow us on Facebook for past shows and updates, and enjoy free access to twice daily support meetings. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Since 1992, Genesis House has been helping real people heal from addiction on their private recovery campus in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. Their family-owned program is accredited by the Joint Commission and offers detox and dual diagnosis treatment in a comfortable and confidential setting. At Genesis House, they focus on treating the underlying causes of addiction. Their comprehensive approach includes psychiatric care, individual and small group therapy, trauma healing techniques, and holistic care including yoga, massage, and animal-assisted therapy. After treatment, their clients enjoy the lifelong support of a nationwide network of Genesis House alumni. Call Genesis House today at 1-800-737-0933 to speak with someone who understands. visit them on the web at www.genesishouse.net. It's time to start your journey to a long and successful recovery.